So have you been to Disney World with the kids? More importantly, what has that got to do with retirement? I thought this was a retirement video. I'm going to share that with you, but before I do, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell below so when you're alerted to when we post new videos. So let me share with you my experience in taking, at the time, many years ago, my 7-year-old daughter to Disney, and we created wonderful memories. And I remember going into that book, Retirement for Dummies, knowing exactly which rides I was going to go on which days, which hotels to be on, what we were going to do. I knew the budget. I knew everything. I planned everything down to its necessary detail. And oh my, what a trip we had. Do you know that most people spend more time planning for their trip to Disney World than they do for their retirement? Retirement is a long journey and you can have tremendous success with it, but it doesn't just happen on its own. You need to plan. And that's where we've developed the 7-step process. And I want to share with you in this video the very first step. And that is defined as defining your income need. So let's talk about that for a moment. If you watched the previous video, the introduction to the 7 steps, you would have learned a little bit about the difference between the accumulation stage and the distribution stage of financial planning. In your working years, your goal is to accumulate the money so that you have a nest egg, so that you can, when you retire, generate the income that you need in that next chapter of life. Because the number one fear you have is, will I outlive my money? So the first step now in the distribution stage is defining that necessary income need. Again, going back to the accumulation stage, when you were working with that financial planner, if you were, the number one conversation was, get me as much money, I'll take on as much risk as I need to so that I can grow my money. Well, now that you've moved into the distribution stage and you have that retirement nest egg that you think will generate the income that you need, the conversation now with regards to planning is making sure you understand your cash flow need. Because everything in retirement, from where you go and what you do and how you invest your money, is driven by the answer to this question, which is, how much do I need on a monthly basis and how much do I need more than that? So the very first step you need to take is to fill out a cash flow worksheet. And you can certainly Google cash flow worksheet, or you can go into my book, Don't Outlive Your Money in Retirement. And we actually have a cash flow worksheet for you to fill out. And make sure that you fill it out together if you're married or have a spouse or a partner, because it's important for you both to know where the money is going, what you're spending on. And I'm going to make 2 recommendations for you when you fill out the cash flow worksheet. First, make sure that you add a buffer in there of, let's call it 10%, because we don't always account for all the things that we're spending. There's always surprises, right? The second thing that I want you to adjust for, believe it or not, it's the number one thing most people forget, is taxes. You sometimes forget that, yeah, we have to spend money, but in order to spend money, we have to get it from somewhere. And in order to get it from somewhere, oftentimes we have to pay taxes on that money. So when you do the cash flow worksheet, make sure, number one, you bump up that number a little bit. And number two, you account for the tax exposure. The other thing that you want to start to do as you do the planning is to make sure that you identify what your bucket list items are. And again, in the book, we have a worksheet for you for the bucket list. Now, my suggestion to you is this, and it goes back to many of the conversations I have with my clients. When I say to them what's on their bucket list, more often than not, the answer is travel, or go see the grandkids, or go, do, be, have fun, right? But from a planning perspective, I can't quantify, I want to travel or I want to see the grandkids. What I can quantify is something more specific. Like a client of mine said, in 3 years, I want to take my grandkids for a week to Disney. It'll probably cost me $15,000. Now, in that way, what I can do is I can literally put in the plan an expense of $15,000 in 3 years, because the big question we really want to answer now is, if I do spend the money on that trip with those kids and generate all those memories, will there be an impact later on negatively in terms of pursuing my other goals? So by being as specific as you can, when are you going to go? How much do you think you're going to spend? You can actually solve for in the planning process whether or not you're on track to do what you need to do, or you need to make some adjustments. The next part of this step of the planning is to identify where the income is going to come from. Now, when we were working, we knew that we were getting a consistent, predictable paycheck on a systematic basis, right? Every week, every other week, every month, whatever the number was. But now that we're retired, outside of Social Security, whenever we choose to take that, most of what we get is not going to be on that systematic, predictable paycheck type of income that we were accustomed to when we were working. So we have to plan, and we actually have to work to generate that. So here's the process. First, you identify how much you need. Then once you identify that number, and then identify what's coming in, then you know how much you need to get from the portfolio. This is what we call the income plan. Now, you may have the estate plan all set up for when you die, but do you have the income plan for when you're living? And the income plan is going to take care of the two of you now and take care of your surviving spouse later. And literally identifying from which accounts, how much money will be coming from each account, when, and how is the best way to reduce the impact of taxes. The income plan will first, again, identify what your need is and then prioritize from which accounts you will take your money from and how to generate that consistent, predictable income stream so that you are confident that you can continue to pursue your retirement goals. And maybe as important as all that we've just said is looking forward, the big question is, how do I invest my money? And as we go through these next steps, you'll start to understand how we have to change how we think now. Again, it used to be, I just want to take on a lot of risk with my money to generate the retirement nest egg that I'm going to need. But now that we've gone into this next chapter called retirement, understanding the cash flow need will drive your decision making about your money management. And we'll get into more of that in the 7 steps, and you can take a look at the rest of the playlist to understand more about the journey we take our clients through.